morning, everyone. This is Joyce, the voice of Joyce, and there are lots of issues to go over today. The good thing is that given time, we can indeed solve all the problems that we have noticed in America. Doesn't matter whether it's on an economic level or it's a societal level. If we care enough, we'll vote, and we'll vote in record numbers for a society that reflects all of us, all 330 million of us. There's about 46 million folks who could vote but haven't. I know that there are obstacles to voting. Look for the Voter Participation Center. They could be a big help in your community. They're going to try to get at least a good portion of the 46 million who could vote but don't to indeed become voters. Those are unmarried women who are really quite busy, I understand. But if you can vote by mail and register by mail, they'll take the angst and the bother of going to the polls out of the process. They'll do all the work for you, but mail it in and fill out the forms. I verified that these forms are indeed legitimate. It comes from the Voter Participation Center out of Stanford or the Voter Information Center. If I had heard about this earlier, I would never give to any one particular candidate. I would give all my money that was slated for candidates to this center. Why? Because it does what a democracy should do: make participation in voting easy. Very, very easy. And that, to me, is what democracy is all about: making the disenfranchised part of an informed citizenry. So look out for these mailers. They've been verified. They're legit. The Voter Participation Center, I can't say it enough. If you haven't registered to vote, they'll help you. And if you haven't voted, they'll help you do that as well, hopefully via the paper ballots and also through prepaid absentee ballots. I know it's hard for many to get to the polls. Here in New York City, the men who work in my apartment building tell me it takes them 5 hours. And this is with no voter suppression, no ID cards necessary, and it still takes us time. So watch for the Voter Participation Center. I think it'll become a greater part of all of our lives, and I certainly hope so, because their intentions are noble for an informed democracy. Which brings me to the simple COVID test. Saliva Direct, coming out of Yale University in conjunction with the National Basketball Players Association, is something that we should all be looking for. That's why the ball players are able to play. And even they if they don't follow the restrictions, like wearing a mask, and here's one of mine, I've got about 7. Somebody made it for me. It's not so onerous. I wear a mask to match my clothing, just like I do my socks and my scarves. And if you're really concerned about getting COVID, well, I recommend this simple pulse oximeter. It measures your oxygenation of your blood and your pulse. My doctor has it in his office. I usually run about 99%. And there it is. I don't know if you can see it. It's 99%. And my pulse is pretty low. So this is recommended. And you know what? My friends in Omaha, Nebraska use it as well. Her husband is a pediatric physician. And the reason we use it is because COVID is a silent killer. What it does is you don't know you have the symptoms of COVID until you really can't breathe and your oxygen level has fallen to 50%. By the time you're symptomatic, you're really sick. And that's when we're overwhelming our hospitals. That's why the simple saliva test that's being given to the ball players is what we all want. It will give us peace of mind to go back to work and back to school. You take the test daily, gives you results in 10 to 15 minutes, and you don't have to worry. If you're negative, you go out. If you're positive, you self-quarantine. For those people who think that just because I'm young, not meaning me, doesn't mean I'm going to suffer, well, let me tell you about the gold medal Olympic rowing crew that inadvertently got COVID. Wasn't intentional. Their physical therapist came to them early in March, before mask wearing was part of our daily routine. We don't go out in New York or New Jersey or other cities unless we have a mask and unless we maintain social distance. We can't eat out in restaurants. We can only eat out. I was spooked the other evening when all young people were eating out without a mask. I finally wound up taking my food home. I couldn't find a place to sit where I was comfortable and secure that I would not risk getting the disease. So back to the Olympic rowers, all young women geared up to practice for the Tokyo Olympics. And 12 to 14 days after they find out that their physical therapist is positive for COVID, they came down with the disease. It took many of them over 6 weeks to test negative. And while they were going through it, they had horrific headaches. They couldn't even walk outdoors for 20 minutes at a time. And these are young women in peak athletic shape. So don't think that COVID is a virus only for minorities because they live in cramped quarters and they're exposed. It isn't. We saw it in Italy. We saw it in Germany. We saw it in Southeast Asia. There's only one way to beat this virus and crush it. And that's with the sick staying home and the healthy to go about their business. The quicker we have the FDA approve this simple, cheap saliva test for in-home use for everyone, the better off we'll be as a society. Because then we can send our kids to school. Somebody becomes ill, it's in the early stages of infection. We can monitor their contacts in 24 hours. We can also treat them so that they don't have the severe symptoms of COVID-19. Let's not be in denial about this disease. Let's not think that it's going to go away like magic. It isn't. It's adapted to their human host. And we're on COVID time unless we're disciplined and act in a disciplined manner where only the well people are out and the sick stay home. And to do that effectively, we need a social safety net for all the people who are going to be affected. And we need cheap childcare as well. A third of the workforce are unmarried, single moms with kids. They can't go back to work if they can't afford daycare, and if daycare is too expensive and closing. We need to do what Scandinavian countries do. For them, daycare is a necessity. It is perhaps 3% of everyone's wages, and daycare centers are really opened in conjunction with schools, community centers, churches, and other organizations where you can leave a child 3 years and up from at least 8 o'clock in the morning to 5 or 6 at night. And those children will get the socialization that they need, and also a feeling of the cultural nature of their country. So it's patriotism and it's good for business, everyone's business. And if we want to go back to a more normalized society, we can't wait for those vaccines, no matter how promising they are. We need the interim step of the simple, cheap, in-house saliva test with results in 10 to 15 minutes, just like the ball players, and the ball players would like us to have it too, and so would Dr. Fauci. So please, everyone, do what I'm doing. Alert your assembly people, your senators, everyone who could make a difference and approve this simple little test for all of us so we can go back to work and our kids can go to school and none of us will be anxious. Take care, everybody. Have a lovely day, and know this too will pass. And American exceptionalism, who has come up with these devices, will pull us through. But we gotta have probably the Defense Production Act so we can scale up appropriately and then give all the knowledge that we have to the rest of the world so that they too can thrive and survive. Thank you for listening, and once again, have a blessed day.